You're listening to The Pump Fake. With your host, Jarrett.
And welcome into the latest edition of the Pump Fake, everybody. The post-WrestleMania version of the Pump Fake, by the way. And joining me is my good friend and fellow wrestling enthusiast, JP Acosta from SB Nation. Hi, buddy.
How you doing? How we feeling?
I'm trying to piece together how I'm feeling in terms of the show as a whole. I think night one largely stunk outside of the main event. I think night two was largely good. The main event wasn't great, but I've come around to the idea of like, well, Cena said he was going to give us nothing and we got nothing. So like, you know what, mission accomplished. Happy that he won though. Very happy that he broke the record.
Yeah, I think overall, I thought the weekend was kind of up and down. I thought NXT Stand and Deliver was incredible.
So shout out Sol Ruka. Shout out Obafemi and Jaron Evans.
But I think WrestleMania overall, it had its high moments, and the highs were incredible. I think the triple threat to main event night one, the triple threat to open night two was arguably the match of the year.
Yeah.
The fun Intercontinental title match between the Braun Breaker,
How about Dominic Mysterio, man? Like
I'm kind of surprised that he won. I didn't think they'd give him that, but it makes a lot of sense. I thought the LA Knight Jacob Fatu match was pretty fun.
Yep.
I thought Naomi and Jade Cargill was really cool. But the lows were really weird. I thought that the main event tonight too, I thought ended kind of flat and it felt rushed. Like they
the Travis Scott thing, it was just a lot.
Yeah, they needed one more beat of like wrestling before you got into the shenanigans of it. But John Cena said he wasn't here he didn't need a wrestling move to beat Cody, and he didn't use a wrestling move. So he was right. I just wish that everything that Travis Scott did should have been The Rock.
Yeah.
And The Rock not being there, despite being an integral cog in this entire story, is really dumb.
Well, that's The Rock in 2025 for you. They'll show up on a whim, be like, actually, I want to do this, but good luck with the rest of things. Have fun. But regardless, yes, WrestleMania has come and gone. Raw tonight. This isn't a wrestling podcast, but we always have other interests outside of this thing. But the NFL draft is in 3 days, and in terms of everything surrounding it, we've talked at length about what could happen. We did an hour and a half long 2-round mock draft together. So now let's focus on the teams at hand as we enter the NFL draft. So JP and I are going to give our top 10 teams ahead of the NFL draft, and that'll be today's show, pre-draft power ranking. So you have your 10 in front of you, my friend.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start with number 10 and we'll work our way down. Who is your number 10?
My number 10 is it's difficult because I want to believe in so many different teams.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to go with the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
10. I believe in all of the structure that they have outside of the quarterback, but it's just now you're putting a rookie quarterback behind in that offense, and we don't know what's going to look like. I wonder what they're going to do in the draft to help address some of that secondary, which is incredibly thin. And I think they're relying on Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen to give them interior pass rush, which they can, but how often? They're both pretty injury prone. They're both a little older. This team is very veteran laden and looking for a rookie quarterback to kind of give them the boost that they need to get over the hump. I think there are a lot of questions that they have, but also a lot of promise. So my number 10 is the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I like it. I think we're going to hear more about the Vikings later on. Just a little node to my list. Number 10 for me, they don't deserve to be here. I'll come out and say that right now. They probably shouldn't be in the top 10, but I don't think we're going to see a year in 2025 like we saw in 2024, despite all evidence pointing to it might be very similar. I'm putting the Bengals at 10. it's just hard for me to keep that offense out of the top 10 after the year that Burrow had, after the year that Chase had, bringing back T. Higgins, when a lot of people thought that they wouldn't be able to do that. So I don't think they're going to be, a team that's on the outside looking in come next year's playoffs. I think that they'll get in, whether it be as a wild card team or if they do win the division. But this offense is too good. And the defense, it would be hard for them to be worse than what they were last year.
Don't put it by them.
I know. But solely off the belief in Burrow and the offense, I'm going to put them at 10 and say that they'll be a playoff team in 2025. I just can't see them being a team that's just continuing to be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I wish I could believe in the Bengals as much as everybody else believes in the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with the Bengals is they haven't fixed any of their problems. I think adding Al Golden, making him the defensive coordinator, could be really fun. Al Golden runs a lot of man coverage. They play a lot of cover one at Notre Dame. Of course, it could change because it's at the NFL level now, but you need the dudes at pass rush, and they still don't have that. Of course, that's what the draft is for, and we will see what they do with the 17th overall pick. They're still one of the worst run defense teams in the league, and offensively, yeah, they're going to score a lot of points, but I don't know how sustainable it is. They dealt with injuries to all three of their top guys. I still think their run game is very inconsistent. There's so many questions that I kind of have them on the outside looking in right now. I want to see what they do after the draft, and maybe then they'll move up.
Yeah. All right. Number 9, go ahead.
My number 9 is a team I am very fond of for the way they play football. My number 9 is the Los Angeles Chargers, the Fighting Harbaughs. They just know how to win. Like I don't understand it.
Except in January, apparently.
But I just think that they are built in a really sustainable way. Being able to keep Jesse Minter, real awesome job by Jim Harbaugh, because I thought Jesse Minter was going to get a head coaching job off his first year coordinating that defense. They lose a lot of stuff, especially losing Poona Ford might be huge, but with where they're going in the draft, I think they're pretty well set up. Offensively, kind of the inverse of the Bengals. You can't go anywhere but up. I actually think adding Najee Harris is a really smart move for this team, because it gives them I think Najee fits the Chargers offense so much better than he fits the Steelers offense. It's very downhill, get the ball and go. I want to see him be able to break a lot of tackles, be able to build up some speed, build some momentum behind that offensive line. And look, I'm still believing in Justin Herbert. I think he's an incredible quarterback. And I think that the growth of Lad McConkey and whoever they get to complement him in the receiving room could be really fun. And I think that defense is going to take another step forward.
And I still believe in Justin Herbert as well. I think a lot of people are going to be weird about Justin Herbert, considering what happened in the playoffs. My drawback with the Chargers is the fact that he's throwing the ball to the 1957 Boston Celtics as of right now, which is less than good. I see it in my head right now. They're going to take Colson Loveland in the first round, and you're just going to cut to Justin Herbert, like his eye twitching in the corner because he's got no wide weapons outside of McConkey to throw the ball to, while Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman just yell, run the ball at the top of their lungs and embrace. Like, I get it. You don't want to put everything on Herbert's plate, but at the same time, you got to get him some sort of weaponry to be able to be Justin Herbert. And right now, he just doesn't have a lot of that at his disposal. I wouldn't rule out a trade for somebody like George Pickens. I'm surprised they weren't in the running for DK Metcalf. So it's something that I would keep an eye out for in terms of trying to get a deep ball target.
I do think adding Colson Loveland would have completely unlocked that offense, because if we look at where Justin Herbert was throwing the ball, Will Dissly had the second most targets. Replace all the Will Dissly targets with a guy that can actually win against man coverage in Colson Loveland, and you open up some of the in-between areas for Lad McConkey. I think that'd be incredible if they're able to get him. I don't know if they'll be able to get him. I think Colson Loveland's probably going to end up going top 15, which, again, is going to be like, wow, that's going to be a bummer for
2 tight ends in the first round. When's the last time that's happened? I feel like that doesn't happen a lot.
Oh my gosh. It didn't happen.
We're going to have to do some Elias Sports Bureau investigating here.
Yeah. But I think the Chargers are just I believe in their management. I believe in their coaching. I think that they are going to continue to be a very formidable player in the AFC for a while.
I think that they'll be in the wild card hunt or a wild card team again. I agree with the fact that Jesse Minter staying on staff is huge. I hope to see them get some more, difference makers out wide rather than being a little bit, in my opinion, too one-dimensional offensively. Number 9, you brought up the Minnesota Vikings. They're my number 9 team. I don't know how good JJ McCarthy's going to be, but Kevin O'Connell has proven, like, as long as you're not Nate Peterman, I'll be able to get something out of you. He just turned Sam Darnold into a Pro Bowl quarterback, throwing 35 touchdown passes. And that I assume that wasn't the plan. I assume the plan was for McCarthy to eventually start last season, but obviously the injury and everything took that away. And they rode Sam Darnold to 14 wins. So I have the utmost faith in Kevin O'Connell to get the most out of JJ McCarthy. Regardless of how good he is. And look, if he is good and O'Connell makes him even better, then awesome. If he's, kind of a middle of the pack guy, but can get all the juices squeezed out of him, then they'll still be a team that's a playoff contender. Now, obviously, the weapons that they have on offense with Addison and Jefferson, the defense is very good. No reason to believe that they'll fall off a cliff. I don't think they'll be a 14-win team again, but I think they'll be, in contention for winning the NFC North and a wild card team at worst.
Yeah, I just hope that McCarthy gets a long leash to make mistakes, because that's what he's going to do. He's a rookie quarterback coming off a meniscus tear, playing at speeds that he probably is not well used to. I wonder how they're going to build some sustainability on defense. I think with Brian Flores, that gives you a really wide margin for error. But I just worry a little bit about that secondary.
Yeah.
They were old last year, and now they just don't have depth.
Yeah, no, those are completely fair components to point out as well. Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do come Thursday. But time will tell. Who is your number 8 team?
My number 8 team is the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
I am a firm believer in Matt LaFleur. I think he is one of the 5 or 7 best play callers in the sport right now, and his ability to create and design an offense around his players' strengths. I think that this team is a couple pieces away from being true Super Bowl contenders, but with the quarterback that they have in Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs is going to be very good once again. I think the offensive line retooling, although they gave Aaron Banks way too much money.
Oh, sure.
They gave him a lot of money, but I think that offensive line is going to improve. I think the defense, the secondary should be a little better. I wonder what they're going to do up front about their pass rush. And I wonder what they're going to do at receiver with Christian Watson out for an extended period of time. I think that's why we have the draft. But I'm a big believer in what the Packers are building.
I wonder if they end up moving one of those guys, because it appears that their receiver totem pole became a little bit more clear, like Jaden Reed being the number 1. I think they wanted Christian Watson to be that number 2, but he's constantly injured. Romeo Doubs took a really nice step forward. Dontavian Wicks is also there, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see one of those guys get dealt.
Well, I think the issue with moving one of those guys is the way I see the Packers receiving room is if you built an entire NBA roster out of role players. You don't have anybody who can go get you a bucket. It's like
Jaden Levine's.
Yeah, it's like building a roster out of Shane Battier. It's cool,
but
they all have a specific role. Jaden Reed is very fun as a slot receiver. Romeo Doubs can do a lot of the power slot stuff, the short area stuff. Dontavian Wicks, when he's not dropping every third pass, can create separation. Their issue is they don't have speed. Mm-hmm. They're not fast at receiver. And that's what Christian Watson brings. Despite having issues with drops, you have to acknowledge the vertical threat that he has. Yeah. He opens up so much of that offense that I just worry for if they don't address the receiver room in this draft class, how are they going to be explosive when Jordan Love's entire game is I'm going to throw the ball downfield?
Yeah.
Be damned whoever is down there.
Real quick, who would be a good receiver addition in this draft class, in your opinion, for Green Bay?
Well, I say all that to say the Packers have a type. They are Brian Gutekunst is very, very, very specific on his body types. I said it about their defensive line class. For the receivers, they want people over 6 feet, over 200 pounds, running sub 4.5. And I think the players that really fit that in terms of their style, Jaden Higgins from Iowa State on day 2 fits that a lot. He might end up going day 1.
Yeah.
Elick Manor might be the best fit for them in terms of height, weight, speed. He blocks his ass off, which is why I think Matt LaFleur and a lot of Shanahan McVay teams are going to love him. I think Trey Harris makes a lot of sense. He's a little slower, but can create a little more separation. And then, of course, Tedero McMillan is the guy that they're looking for, but I don't think he's going to fall past 12. And then after that, I think Egbuka kind of is a little redundant with what they have. I think Luther Burden's a little redundant with what they have. I think Matthew Golden's not big enough. They need big, tall, fast. If they're going to replace Christian Watson, they want to do it with a big, tall, fast guy.
All right, fair enough. All right, my number 8 team is the Detroit Lions. I'm gonna have them lower than most. I think my thing is just I don't know what it's gonna look like sub Ben Johnson, sub Aaron Glenn, and I think losing both of those guys, like, that's not nothing to me, and so it's something that I'm personally keeping an eye on. And not to say that I think they're gonna go 7-10, but in that division, especially where the Vikings are good, the Packers are good, the Bears are gonna be better. I think that they take a little bit of a step back. I would be very shocked if they win 15 games again. Again, don't think they're going to go 7-10 or anything like that. I think they'll still be a playoff team. But I have questions about what the offense is going to look like without Ben Johnson, and what the defense is going to look like without Aaron Glenn. Granted, they played very well last year with almost all their starters injured, so they'll get that built-in benefit of getting those guys back and healthy. But something that certainly monitoring right now.
So I am one of those people who have Detroit way higher than you, and I would like to propose a premise that Ben Johnson was half running his offense and half running what Dan Campbell wants. When Dan Campbell first got hired, it wasn't Ben Johnson that he brought with him to be his coordinator. It was Anthony Lynn, and Anthony Lynn did not continue, obviously, as offensive coordinator for the Lions, and he promoted Ben Johnson. I think Dan Campbell doesn't get enough credit for his schematic and how much input he has on the offense in Detroit. And I think we kind of look at him as sort of the rah-rah culture guy, which he is, but I think that offense is just as much his input as it was Ben Johnson. The fact that they made internal hires, I'm excited for, because they have built such a strong nucleus they built such a strong identity of who they are, who they want to be. I don't expect a lot of deviation from that. And I guess it's just, for me, it's positive regression to the mean, or positive regression, which sounds stupid, but you're not going to be as injured as you were last season. Right. You're going to get Aiden Hutchinson back. Lee McNeil is going to come back. You're going to get all these dudes who weren't hurt back healthy. So I'm expecting them to still be one of the 5 best teams in football.
All right. Move on to number 7 then.
My number 7 is the Washington Commanders.
I'll stop you right there. My number 7 is also the Washington Commanders.
All right. Good. We got some synergy here. The Commanders exist in a really weird space because they're like the kombucha girl meme, where it's like, well, Cliff Kingsbury is the coordinator, Jaden Daniels is the quarterback. Well, that defense is very high and low. They're able to retain some pass rush. They lost Jonathan Allen. Secondary should be better with a lot of retooled parts. I don't know, man. All I know is that Jaden Daniels is really freaking good. Yeah. And I think that his continued growth is going to add a lot to the offense. I think if they're able to get a running back that can kind of give them a little bit more juice. I think Eckler doesn't have that, and I think Robinson is a little bit more of a hammer in the backfield. I think Deebo Samuel is fine. I don't think he's like a game changer at this stage of his career, but in terms of the RPO bullshit, he's going to do all the RPO bullshit. I'm a little worried about defense because they lost Jonathan Allen, lost Dante Fowler. Their pass rush is going to be lacking a little bit. And in the secondary, you're going to move Saint still inside to his true spot at nickel. Got to find an outside corner. You lost Jeremy Chin. I have some questions about what they're going to do defensively. But
I think Derek Forrest also left, if I'm not mistaken. He signed elsewhere.
Derek Forrest is also gone. I just wonder what they're going to do defensively.
Yeah, I had that same question last year, though, and Dan Quinn seemed to be able to figure it out with a lot of plug-and-play guys. So hopefully we can see a little bit more of that success as well. Like, they still got, talent on that side of the ball. Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louver are both awesome. But yeah, they do have to figure some stuff out secondary-wise. They traded for Marshawn Lattimore, and that didn't really lead to much. Granted, he was hurt and came back and probably wasn't completely 100%. So a full year of having him there, I think will make a difference. But yeah, interested to see what they do in the first round as well, because it feels like it will all but certainly be a defensive pick. It's just a matter of where in the defense it will be. All right, we'll move on to number 6. My number 6 is the Green Bay Packers. I think, and I've talked about this with a few other people, I might have them a little bit higher than the consensus. And I think a lot of people are going to be a little bit lower on them because Jordan Love didn't have a great playoff game against Philadelphia. But a lot of that, too, he was dealing with an ankle injury all year that he sustained against Philadelphia and Brazil. So I think getting him closer to 100%, we're going to see more good Jordan Love, which, by the way, we saw a lot of good Jordan Love last year, even with the injury. I think that, personally, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. I think that talent-wise, without a doubt, top 10er in the league. And despite the questions that they have in terms of receivers, they still have a lot of, B- guys, which is better than, having no one at all. So I think they'll figure that stuff out in the draft. Defensively, they're still very good. Jair Alexander probably going to be on his way out, but they had multiple guys at that position step up last year. Edge Cooper proved to be a dog right off the bat, and if they can get somebody else opposite of him, I really like what Green Bay could be this year, and I think they'll be a threat in the NFC.
Yeah, I think the Edge Cooper part is really interesting because he's their best pass rusher and he's also an off-ball linebacker.
Pretty great.
So it's going to be wondering how they build on Edgerrin Cooper being more of a 3-down guy, or if they can find a linebacker who can do a little bit more of the coverage stuff that Cooper can't do, so he can focus on running forward very fast. I just believe in that offense, and I believe in Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur and Josh Jacobs behind that offensive line, who gives them so. I think it was understated how much Josh Jacobs gave to that offense that they didn't have with Aaron Jones. He gave them such a constant ability to, if our pass game isn't working, we know we can get 4 or 5 yards a pop with Josh Jacobs. He's not an explosive runner, but his consistency in the backfield with keeping them on track complements Jordan Love so well because of how high variance he is just from a down-to-down basis. He's not going to throw quick game. He's not going to be that efficient quarterback that we see, like, trying not to compare the two, but he's not going to dice you underneath like a Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes at this stage of their career. He is going to throw the ball downfield very far.
He's a throwback in a lot of ways. And I don't want to make this comparison either, because obviously like the comparisons are there because they play for the same team, but he has a lot of Favre in him.
Yes.
Where he's going to make like the unbelievable throw in a tight window downfield, but he's also going to make one every once in a while. Like, Jordan, what the hell were you looking at, bruv? But that's what you live with, because the good more often than not outweighs the crazy.
Yeah. And if you throw the ball downfield first and long, incomplete, you can go back and get like 5 yards second down with Josh Jacobs. You get yourself into 3rd and 5s instead of 3rd and 8s. So I think Josh Jacobs adds a lot to that offense. I still believe in the sustainability of it and the growth of Matt LaFleur as a play caller.
I 100% agree. All right. Your number 6 then.
I'm probably too high on this team, but I don't care. It is the Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, okay.
I just believe in what they've built up front in terms of their pass rush. Adding Poona Ford, incredible move. One of my favorite free agency moves of the free agency period. Getting him for what they did. He is such a good compliment to Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner, and you can rotate those guys in. I think what we've learned from anything from Philly during their Super Bowl run is doing the hockey lineups on defensive line and you can just rotate guys in, is probably really good. Of course, having a lot of really good defensive linemen can win you a lot of football games.
Yeah.
But I think the Rams being able to do that without sacrificing, like, they were just too small up front this past season. They got ran over by Philly both times. And I think Poona Ford is going to put them in a right direction when it comes to that. I think they're going to address the secondary in the draft. I still have a little bit of questions about how explosive their offense can be because they were also very slow last year. But Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua gonna be so freaking cool.
Yeah.
So freaking fun. And I think their offensive line is gonna be a little healthier. So I'm continuing to bet on the growth, the development of their young guys on defense. And then as long as you have Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, you're probably gonna win a whole lot of football games.
Watching Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams is like watching Claudio Castagnoli and John Moxley tag together. Like, I think that's just going to be perfect synergy offensively. So yeah, I love it. All right, my number 5 then is the Los Angeles Rams. I think they're going to be awesome, dude. I'm going on record, and I think I said this last week on the pod with Matt Verderam. The Los Angeles Rams were my pick to come out of the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I think that they are that good. They were like maybe a play or two away from doing it last year, because if they get past Philadelphia, I think they beat Washington. So yeah, you lose Cooper Kupp, but you replace him in the form of Devontae Adams, who's going to be a tremendous out wide guy. Opens up things you could do in the slot with different guys like Tutu Atwell. And you still have, a nice backfield with Kyron Williams. Defensively, that is my biggest worry too. You got to get somebody at corner. You got to get another guy at safety. But they can do that. And this is a class where, especially picking in the first round, where those names are going to be there. If you want to get a Siobhan Revel, if you want to get an Amos from Ole Miss, like, you can do that. If you want to make a trade for a guy, Jair Alexander, we already talked about him from Green Bay. Maybe you make a move like that. There are moves that they can make, and if anybody will make them, it's going to be Les Snead to make a run at another Super Bowl while he still has Matthew Stafford playing at a high level. And like I said, they were a mere few plays away from potentially getting there last year. I think that they have upgraded both offensively, and like you pointed out on the defensive line, they were just small last year and they got bullied. Putting big Poona Ford in the middle of that defense, man, I'm excited to see what that does for that unit as a whole. Yeah, Los Angeles Rams, my pick to come out of the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl on April 21st, 2025.
So my big questions for the Rams going forward. Offensively, you still need some explosiveness. You still need some downfield juice. Defensively, I think they could use, again, they need some impact players in the secondary. And I think they could possibly, add some more depth up front.
Let me pose this to you. Do you think that they maybe call Miami and try to steal Jalen Ramsey back?
That was the first place I thought of, actually. That was the first place I thought of. I thought of them and then the Raiders. But I think it makes sense, for what they like. But I also think they're probably going in a new direction with how they're building. They want to start adding more youth to this team. So I think the big issue for me is you only have 2 picks on day 2 of the draft, where all of the strength of this class is on day 2. You only have 2 picks on day 2, but I think they have 4 picks on day 3. Let's see. They got 1, 2, 3, 4. They got 5 picks.
Hey, you can send at least 2 of those to Miami for Jalen Ramsey to get him back, and then use those earlier picks on other guys.
You could do that. I think you could trade up into day 2 if you wanted to. I think, honestly, if they don't address secondary in round 1, I would not be surprised if they were a team that's in on Iowa State's Jalen Noel. He is one of my kind of sleeper round 1 guys, just because the speed and the ability to just get vertical from the slot is going to really entice a lot of teams, especially the Rams. So you can have, I even think a guy like Jaden Higgins could also work here, where you have Devontae and Higgins on the outside, Puka Nacua kind of doing the power slot thing and just hammer teams.
Yeah.
But I do still think I have a few questions about where they're going. But, man, I just believe in Stafford and McVay and then that pass rush.
Absolutely. 100%. All right. Your number 5 then.
I can't quit them. And there was nowhere else that I'm putting them. I can't put them outside the top 5. It's the Chiefs.
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
I can't put them outside the top 5, but I can acknowledge that this team doesn't have as much talent as they used to in previous years. But they still have the most fearsome player in the NFL right now. Like, as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, as long as they have Chris Jones, as long as they have Andy Reid and Spags, they're gonna win the division. They're gonna probably get the home field advantage. They're probably gonna get a first round bye in the playoffs. You're gonna have to go to Arrowhead to beat them, and then you actually gotta go beat them. So I just think this team is still going to be in the conversation for a Super Bowl. I just have a lot of big questions about their offensive line and their sustainability of it. I don't like paying, I think it was Jalen Moore.
Jalen Moore, yeah, from San Francisco, they brought over.
I don't like paying Jalen Moore all that money.
Yeah. So, by the way, that tells you what they think of this tackle class, by the way.
Well, actually, I think that they're going to be one of the teams that, you know, if he starts to slide, they're going to trade up for Josh Simmons. Because before the patella injury, he was my number one ranked offensive tackle in this class. Would have been a top 10 pick if he was healthy. But the Chiefs picking him and then just saying, like, you don't have to play early unless you're needed would be really good for him. And then you just need some talent up front. So I think I have questions about their sustainability up front on the offensive line. They need some more speed. I have a lot of questions, but also they got Patrick Mahomes. And until they don't have Patrick Mahomes, I'm not going to count them out.
Yeah, and the last time they got embarrassed at a Super Bowl, they completely revamped their offensive line and they brought in Joe Thuney and they traded for Orlando Brown. And like they fixed it very quickly. Haven't really done a lot. They paid Trey Smith, which is good. But they haven't really made any other like big noteworthy moves there. So yeah, the offensive line questions are fair. But you know, we'll talk more about the Chiefs here shortly. My number 4, I'm going to put Baltimore at number 4. With the Ravens, like I don't expect Derrick Henry to take a big step back. Lamar's coming off a tremendous year. I think adding DeAndre Hopkins is like your third receiver. That's pretty good, especially at this stage in his career, where he can just be a guy who, you know, is on a pitch count almost, where he doesn't have to be an every down receiver, but when you need a big play, he can still be relied on to do that. They need another cornerback to put opposite of Nate Wiggins, and they could probably do for another pass rusher. Don't know what they're going to do with Odafe Oweh is going into the final year of his rookie deal. Wouldn't be shocked if they moved him in a draft day trade. But yeah, I mean, they've got all the talent there for them. I mean, they retained largely everybody. They re-signed Ronnie Stanley. Didn't have like any ginormous losses. So they'll be back in the hunt and back in the thick of it. It's just a matter of can they get it done this year? And we'll see what they do in the draft to help their cause. But yeah, no reason to not have them near the top.
Yeah, I'm going to be a lot higher on, not a lot higher, but I'm going to be higher on the Ravens than you are. They didn't lose a lot. I think that the infrastructure is still there and Lamar's only going to get better. I think that they just know how to win in the regular season. It's just about getting over that hump, and they still need a couple more things to get over that hump. I don't see any reason why they go down, but I'm still a big fan of theirs.
All right. So it'd be your number 4 now, correct? Yes.
My number 4 is the Buffalo Bills. And I love what the Bills did to revamp their offense last season. They find themselves where the Chiefs are currently as well. They need some juice at receiver. They desperately need some juice at receiver, especially on the outside, because of how much Khalil Shakir operates as a slot receiver and also does not play when they go to bigger jumbo personnel. They need a receiver on the outside who can kind of do that, you know, give them some more juice. I also think they're really small up front on the defensive side of the ball. They've built this on vertical penetration through defensive tackles. They need a one tech. They need a true defensive tackle. My biggest question is they are slow in the secondary, and that's where the Chiefs exposed them after Christian Benford got hurt. They're just too slow. I think Taylor Rapp is cool, not fast enough. DeMar Hamlin was cool, absolutely not fast enough as a secondary player. I think Kaiir Elam is now gone.
He's gone. Yeah, he's gone. In Dallas.
He's in Dallas now. Rasul Douglas is still a free agent. they need some speed, they need some youth and some impact players in that secondary before I can really say like, okay, this team is super back, because there's just too many holes right now.
My guess for them, and by the way, you know, we can keep talking about the Bills because they're my number 3 team. So we'll keep this going. My guess for them is they're going to take a corner in round 1. They brought back Tre'Davious White. They brought back Dane Jackson. Tre'Davious White, love him to death. Cannot be your second cornerback. Cannot be a starter at this point in his career. Dane Jackson, good depth player. That's fine. You bring him back after a year hiatus in Carolina. Whatever. They need, go and get somebody like Siobhan Revel if he's there. If you want to get Trey Amos from Ole Miss, cool. But you need somebody. And even if they wanted to bring back Roswell Douglas to be another, like, if you want to just hoard up some like depth at cornerback just in case something like last year happens where you lose Christian Benford and then you're just kind of left with Kyer Elam, you don't want to be in that spot again. So they need to get another starting caliber cornerback, and they need somebody out wide. Like they signed Josh Palmer, like cool, but like that's a wide receiver 3 talent at best. Their reliance on the whole everybody eats thing, like that's great and all, but you got, like you said earlier, you got to get somebody who can get you a bucket, and they don't currently have that outside of Khalil Shakir. I was talking to Stevie Johnson, and like, who do you think that they should go get? He pointed out Keenan Allen, but even then, Keenan Allen's more of a power slot guy at this point in his career and not the fastest fella. So I don't know if that's a name that I would circle. But they need somebody. They need somebody who can be their number 1 on the outside. They thought that Amari Cooper could be somewhat of that when they traded for him last year. And, he had a few big catches, but wasn't, the difference maker that they were hoping that they would get. So a few things that they need to address, but having a good offensive line, having a good quarterback, that obviously bails out a lot of different things. So at minimum, but by the way, they play in the AFC East, so that certainly helps. They'll win the AFC East. Josh Allen's probably going to be awesome again. But it's just a matter of, all right, what can you do to get past Kansas City? Because that's what all these top AFC teams are building their rosters to do. That, like, the Bills, the Ravens, like, they're not saying, okay, how do we win the AFC North? How do we win the AFC East? They're building for, how do we get past the Chiefs? And so we'll see what they do this weekend to help them do that. But there's a few things that they certainly need.
Yeah, I think the Bills are in a great spot to add, but they have to add at quite a few spots for me to kind of go, okay, they're a Super Bowl contender, which I still think they are, because you have Josh Allen, you have that sustainability on offense, and you kept Joe Brady. That defense has got to improve, and I think they got to get faster.
And it's not just that they have to improve, because like we'll see games in the regular season where they look really good against, a mediocre team. But like last year against Baltimore, where you can't live in nickel and just let Derrick Henry run 80 yards untouched to start the game and set the tone like that. Like, you got to get some size. You got to get somebody who can lay the wood when it comes to slowing down the run game. And like the best run teams against them the past, like especially last year, like it wasn't just Baltimore, Miami, who was really good at running the ball, ran it down their throats a lot as well. So they need to get, more size up front, more speed in the secondary. It feels like they're kind of built inversely to that, where their front is smaller and a little bit faster than the average front, but their secondary is slower than the average secondary. So that weird inverse that they have, I think, has cost them much more than just about any other aspect that could cost them.
Yeah, and I think another underrated thing is just the health of your linebackers. Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano both missed time last year. You gotta keep them healthy. They are the glue of this team.
Well, what better way to help a defense that struggles with injuries than signing Joey Bosa? I'm sure that will. I'm sure
that's going to help.
Here's the thing: if they can just wrap him in bubble wrap, and keep him on a pitch count for the biggest plays of the game until the playoffs, and then if he can stay healthy, great signing. I think he'll play well, but that is a very, very big if. And we'll see how it plays out. All right, your number 2.
My number 2 or number 3?
Your number 3. My apologies.
My number 3 is the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
I still believe in that infrastructure. I believe in the talent that they have. I think that offense is going to continue to be firing on all cylinders. And the defense is just going to get healthier. Like, you just got to get healthier. I know they lost Carlton Davis, but added DJ Reed, which I think is incredible for them. And I think Terrion Arnold's going to make another step this year. I think Jack Campbell is right on the precipice of being like a legit star in this league at linebacker. And it's a tough division, but I think they are still the best team in that division. So I'm picking the Lions. I'm not going to say they're Super Bowl like favorites in that conference, but I don't think they're Super Bowl favorites in that conference, but I still believe that they're going to be really high up there in terms of contenders in the NFL.
All right. Now, we talked about the Lions a little bit already, so we can keep it going forward. I'm going to put the Chiefs at 2, simply because of what you pointed out. Do they still have Patrick Mahomes? They still got Andy Reid, still got Spags, still got a bunch of defensive playmakers. Offensively, yes, you need some juice, and you need to fix the offensive line. And those are things that are going to be talked about when discussing the Chiefs from now until opening kickoff. But as long as you have that core infrastructure of Mahomes, Reid, Spags, you're going to be in it. You're going to probably win the AFC West. You're probably going to be playing in championship weekend like they have for the past 7 years. But there are questions there. But 15 answers a lot of those questions. Andy Reid answers a lot of those questions, and it really helps make up for whatever shortcomings the roster has.
Yeah, I think that this Chiefs team is the same story every year. They might be flawed, but as long as you have Mahomes, Reid, Spags, and Chris Jones, you're going to make the playoffs. You're going to be you're going to get to at least the AFC Championship.
All right. Is it safe for me to assume that your number 2 is Baltimore?
Yes.
Okay.
I am a big fan of what Baltimore is doing. I still think, like you said, I wonder where they address the secondary. I think moving Kyle Hamilton back really helped, but I also think they could move Kyle Hamilton back to an overhang. I think Malachi Starks make a lot of sense there. I think 27, if he makes it to 27. I think adding, like you said, a little bit more impact as a pass rush, and then finding some more competition inside at guard would be really helpful. But I don't think Derrick Henry's going to take a step back. I think the receiver room is going to continue to get better around Lamar. And this, again, we're going into year 3 with Todd Monken?
Yeah.
This is year 3 Todd Monken, year 2 of Zach Orr. I'm still a heavy believer in what the Ravens are doing, and I'm a big fan, and I think that roster and the infrastructure is really strong. Keep getting Ronnie Stanley to stay for I think it's like $20 million a year.
Yeah, 3 years, $60 million,
which is lower than Jake Matthews,
Dan Moore,
lower than Garrett Bowles, and you're just $1 million above Alaric Jackson. That's good. That's really good.
It's a good hometown discount.
The Ravens, yes. So I just think that team is built sustainably, and I think that they're going to still be one of the top teams.
All right, and then our respective number 1s will be the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, and I like the analogy that you made with the hockey line, like where you could just like shift out 3 guys and put 3 more in and still get the impact. And yeah, they lost a couple of those guys. Milton Williams is gone. Josh Sweat is gone. But you still have a flood of talent, and they brought in Aziz Ojulari and Josh Uche. So like for what they lost, those holes have kind of been filled in by other guys, and you still got Jalen Carter. You still got just the entire with Nakobe Dean, all the guys that they have up front that are impact players. And they built their team to win that way, and it worked. So I don't think that they're going to repeat as Super Bowl champions. I want to get that out of the way, as I already have with saying that the Rams are going to go to the Super Bowl. But they're still going to be incredibly formidable in the NFC. Not going to be an easy out. Probably going to win 12, 13 games. And wouldn't shock me if they're playing the NFC title game again. It's a very strong team, a very few holes on the, like, if I asked you what the Eagles' biggest hole is, what would it be to you? Because even if it is a hole, quote unquote, they're still fine at whatever that spot is. Maybe like linebacker depth. Like if that's your biggest worry, and you still got Zach Bond there.
But you're gonna get Nakobe Dean back eventually.
Yeah.
Right guard, maybe.
Sure.
But again, you're in between Cam Jurgens and Lane Johnson.
Yeah.
They force you to answer so many questions, which is why the Eagles are so good. If
Yeah.
you want to try and load up the box and stop the run, they're going to throw it over your heads, and you probably don't have enough DBs to cover A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I do wonder what happens with Dallas Goedert. There's been a lot of smoke about a trade. I don't know if it's going to happen, but draft day is on Thursday.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if something happens then. If you want to sit back because you're too scared of the explosive pass plays, Saquon Barkley, that offensive line, and Jalen Hurts will run you over.
Yeah.
And then they kept Vic Fangio. They kept the youth on that defense around. I'm not super worried about losing Josh Sweat and Milton Williams because I think Jalix Hunt has grown a lot. He's probably going to get more playing time. This is a really strong defensive tackle class, historically strong defensive tackle class. But they have so much talent everywhere and so much young talent in critical places where, like, Quinion Mitchell was a rookie. Cooper DeJean was a rookie.
Mhm.
Those guys are going to get better. We haven't seen the best of them yet. So until they're proven otherwise, the Eagles are probably the best team in the NFL.
All right. And that rounds out our top 10 ahead of the NFL draft. Stick around for a bonus episode and a new little feature that we're going to be doing. But just in case you don't have enough time for that, JP, what do you got coming in terms of content for draft week?
So I got my top 100 big board coming out tomorrow. Got some more cool draft stuff coming out this week. On Thursday, find me at SB Nation. I'm going to be doing live grades for the first 2 days of the draft, and then find all my draft content there. I'll be posting on TikTok. Make sure you follow me there. Follow SB Nation on TikTok. Got some cool stuff going on over there. So just see what I'm doing, see where I'm going.
Love it. And for me, especially if you're Steelers fans watching this channel, tons of draft coverage behind the steel curtain coming this week. It's going to be very, very busy. You'll have my draft stuff as well for USA Today, Sporting News, wherever you find me. Lots of post draft grades and whatnot coming. So a lot of stuff coming this week, this weekend. Very, very busy. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe. If you're listening as a podcast, leave a review. And again, if you got time, stick around for the bonus feature. It's going to be a lot of fun. Talk to you guys soon. Enjoy the NFL draft. We'll be here to recap it all on the Pump Fake.